Celine Harper sat in her sleek corner office overlooking the city skyline, the hum of the bustling metropolis below barely penetrating the glass walls. At 32, she was the youngest CEO in the history of Crestfield Innovations, a tech company she'd transformed from a small startup into a billion-dollar powerhouse. Meetings, deadlines, investor calls, her life revolved around the relentless pursuit of success. Her phone buzzed on the mahogany desk, jolting her from her thoughts. The caller ID read, "Social Services." She hesitated, heart skipping. Memories of a fractured childhood, foster homes, uncertainty tugged at her. She hadn't spoken to her mother in years, nor seen her younger half-brother since he was an infant. But something about the call felt urgent. "Ms. Harper, this is Lena from Child Protective Services." The woman's voice was calm but firm. "I'm calling regarding your half-brother, Ezra. Your mother was found unconscious, overdose. Ezra is currently in emergency care. There's no other family willing or able to take him." Celine's breath caught. 2 years old. Alone. Vulnerable. I want to take him," she whispered. The word felt heavy, like a promise she wasn't sure she could keep. "He's my brother." Lena's voice softened. "It won't be easy, Celine. He needs constant care. And this might affect your job." Celine closed her eyes, swallowed the lump in her throat. She had built everything from nothing. But family, she realized, was something no boardroom or balance sheet could replace. "I'll do whatever it takes." The first days with Ezra felt like stepping into a storm. Celine's sleek apartment, once a sanctuary of order and control, was now filled with the sharp scent of baby formula and the constant patter of tiny feet. Ezra, with his soft curls and wide eyes, was both a joy and a challenge. He clung to Celine as if she were the only anchor in a turbulent sea, crying through sleepless nights and waking hours filled with unpredictable tantrums. Celine tried to keep her work schedule intact: board meetings, investor calls, product launches. But the cracks were already showing. At a critical strategy session, her phone buzzed incessantly with alerts from the nanny. Ezra's fever spiked. He won't stop crying. Her mind fractured between the conference room and her little brother's fragile needs. When the meeting ended, her COO Glenn caught her retreating from the room, a rare look of vulnerability on her usually steely face. "Celine," Glenn said quietly, "this is serious. You can't keep juggling both worlds. The board is worried." She nodded but didn't respond. How could she explain that every missed call, every distracted glance, was because Ezra needed her? How could she choose between her life's work and the child who had no one else? Exhaustion settled deep in her bones. But when Ezra wrapped his tiny arms around her and whispered "Sissy," Celine's heart swelled with a fierce determination. She would find a way or lose everything trying. Weeks turned into months, and the delicate balance Celine tried to maintain began to crumble like a house of cards. Ezra's needs were constant. His tiny hands reached for her during important presentations. His cries echoed through her office during investor meetings. Celine found herself retreating from social events, postponing vacations, skipping sleep, all while the pressure at Crestfield Innovations mounted. Glenn's warnings became sharper. "Celine, this isn't sustainable. You're losing focus. The board's patience is running out." One evening, after an exhausting 12-hour day, Celine found herself alone in the office. The soft sound of Ezra's breathing from the portable crib beside her desk was a small comfort, but her phone buzzed relentlessly. Emails flagged urgent, calls from the board requesting her immediate attention. Her hands trembled as she read a message from the chairman. "We need to discuss your future as CEO." Her world narrowed. How could she protect Ezra and keep her company? Was it possible to do both, or was she destined to lose one? That night, as Ezra's tiny fingers curled around hers, Celine's resolve hardened. She would fight for both her brother and the company she had built. But at what cost? The boardroom was colder than Celine remembered, the polished mahogany table reflecting the stern faces of the executives she had once led with confidence. Now, their expressions held something harsher: doubt, impatience, and a growing belief that Celine could no longer handle the role. Glenn sat at the head of the table, his eyes steady and unforgiving. "Celine," the chairman began, "we appreciate everything you've done for Crestfield Innovations. But your recent absences and distracted leadership are jeopardizing the company's future. We need someone who can commit fully." Celine's throat tightened. "I'm aware of the concerns, but I've been balancing a family emergency." A board member interrupted. "We all have emergencies, Ms. Harper. The company cannot be your second priority." Her heart ached with every word. Ezra's face flashed in her mind, the small hands, the trusting eyes, the whispered "Sissy." Could she abandon him to save her career? Glenn leaned forward. We're offering you a choice. Step down or risk being removed. It's business. Celine stood, steadying herself. I won't abandon my brother. If that means losing this job, so be it. The room fell silent. As she walked out, the weight of loss pressed down, but so did the warmth of a bond no job could replace. Celine's resignation letter was brief but heartfelt. The news spread quickly. Some praised her bravery, others whispered about lost ambition. But Celine barely noticed. Her world had shifted. Days after stepping down, the hum of the office was replaced by the soft laughter of Ezra chasing after a butterfly in the park. The city skyline still gleamed, but now her focus was different. Without the demands of the CEO chair, Celine found freedom to be present. She learned how to make pancakes without burning them, sang lullabies off-key, and discovered the magic in Ezra's simple smiles. Financially, things were tighter. Consulting gigs from former colleagues helped keep bills paid, but the constant fear of instability lingered. Yet, every time Ezra wrapped his tiny arms around her neck and whispered "Sissy," she knew the sacrifice was worth it. Celine was no longer defined by a title or a company success. She was defined by love. Months passed, and life settled into a new rhythm. Celine's days were no longer ruled by meetings and profit margins, but by Ezra's laughter and discoveries. She watched him take his first steps, heard his first words, and marveled at the little person he was becoming. Some days were harder than others. The weight of what she'd lost tugged at her, a corner office replaced by a cramped apartment, the security of a CEO's salary gone. But in those quiet moments, when Ezra's head rested on her shoulder, all doubts melted away. One afternoon, as they sat beneath a sprawling oak in the park, Ezra looked up at Celine and said, "Sissy, happy?" Her heart swelled. "Yes, baby, because I have you." Celine realized then that success wasn't in titles or money. It was in the love she gave and received. She may have lost a company, but she gained everything that truly mattered, because sometimes, to find your greatest strength, you have to lose everything else. The first months after stepping down were a blur of uncertainty. Celine grappled not just with financial strain, but with the ache of identity lost. Who was she without the title, the power, the respect? Ezra was her constant anchor, his bright smile a daily reminder that some things mattered far more than a corner office. One morning, over a breakfast of pancakes she had finally perfected, Celine's phone buzzed. An email from an old college friend, Maya, who ran a nonprofit for single mothers and children in need. "Hey Celine, I've been following your journey. Your story inspired me. Would you consider joining our team? We need someone like you, smart, passionate, and resilient." Celine hesitated, then smiled. Maybe this was her new path. She met Maya that afternoon in a sunlit cafe, and for the first time in months, Celine felt a spark of hope. Her work now wasn't about profits or shareholders. It was about people like Ezra, children who needed a chance. And as she held Ezra's hand walking home, Celine knew she was exactly where she was meant to be. The nonprofit was a world apart from the corporate battles Celine had fought. The office was smaller, the budgets tighter, but the mission felt infinitely bigger. Celine dove into her new role with all the passion she once reserved for board meetings. She organized community programs, fundraisers, and mentorship opportunities for struggling families. Every smile she saw, every child helped, rekindled her spirit. Ezra adapted too. The quiet afternoons in meeting rooms were replaced by visits to playgrounds and story hours. He laughed freely, chasing other children with the unbridled joy only a toddler knows. One evening, after a long day, Celine sat with Ezra on her lap, reading his favorite picture book. "Why did you leave your company, Sissy?" Ezra asked, his small voice innocent and curious. Celine kissed his forehead. "Because you needed me more than they did." Ezra smiled, squeezing her hand. "I'm glad you're my Sissy." In that moment, Celine understood that real success was measured not in titles or profits, but in love, presence, and sacrifice. Years passed like gentle waves, each bringing growth, healing, and new beginnings. Celine and Ezra had found their rhythm. Ezra was now starting preschool, full of wonder and curiosity. Celine's work at the nonprofit flourished, and though it was never easy, she felt more fulfilled than ever. One crisp autumn morning, as Celine prepared to speak at a charity gala, she caught sight of a familiar face in the crowd, Glenn Maddox, the former COO. He approached her cautiously. "Celine, I wanted to say, I was wrong to doubt you. What you've done, what you've become, it's incredible." She smiled warmly. "Thank you, Glenn. I learned that leadership isn't just about managing a company. It's about choosing what and who you truly value. That night, as Ezra snuggled beside her, Celine whispered, "We made it, baby." Together. Her journey had cost her everything she thought defined success, but in return, she'd gained something infinitely more precious: family, love, and purpose. Celine closed her eyes, heart full, ready for whatever the future held, because sometimes the greatest triumphs come not from holding on, but from letting go.